Story 1. Inside my house. It was 4 a.m. on a Saturday night when I abruptly awoke to the sinister growl of my empty stomach. Sleep eluded me on an empty belly, so I reluctantly left the comforting embrace of my bed. As I stumbled my way to the kitchen in the dim, eerie silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. I had always been fastidious about closing every cabinet I opened, but to my horror, I found one ajar. A chill ran down my spine. It was inconceivable that I had been so careless. My obsessive tendencies led me to dwell on this anomaly more than most people would. As trepidation gnawed at me, I decided to investigate my home for any unwelcome intruders. I meticulously checked every closet, and the sense of unease intensified with each empty one. The atmosphere thickened as I descended to the den, and there it was, the source of my dread, the back door, wide open. My heart raced, and I was now certain that an intruder had breached my sanctuary. Summoning a courage I didn't know I possessed, I stepped outside, and my trembling hand fumbled for the patio light switch. The feeble light revealed a silhouette sitting in one of the patio chairs. My breath caught in my throat as our eyes met. The man had a ghastly appearance, his unkempt hair cascading down to his shoulders. He resembled someone who had long lost his way in the world, his clothes ragged and filthy. His vacant stare sent shivers down my spine as he slowly rose from the chair, a sinister presence drawing closer. Uncertain of his intentions, I stood frozen, like a deer caught in the headlights. In that eerie silence, it was as though time itself had stopped. Then, without warning, he lunged at me with a sudden burst of energy. Instinct kicked in, and I barely managed to slam the door shut and lock it, just in the nick of time. We locked eyes through the glass, a mere pane of separation between life and something far more sinister. For what felt like an eternity, we stared each other down, my heart pounding in my chest. It was only then that I realized I should be calling the authorities. I dashed to the kitchen, fingers trembling, and snatched the phone. As I dialed 911, dread loomed over me. But when I returned to the door, the intruder had vanished into the shadows, leaving no trace behind. The police arrived, but their search yielded nothing. No sign of the man, no explanation for his eerie presence, and no resolution to the horror that had unfolded in the dark of night. Story 2. Under my bed. A harrowing tale unfolded just a few months ago, and I still reside in the same house where these chilling events transpired. Beneath my bed lay an innocuous electrical outlet that served as my nightly phone charger. I routinely placed my phone on the ledge above my bed, utilizing it as my trusty alarm clock. However, a sinister series of incidents began one Monday night in February, casting an eerie shadow over my otherwise ordinary life. The haunting began when I was jolted from slumber by the blaring of my phone's alarm. The room was shrouded in darkness, and the time displayed was a bewildering 4:00 a.m. Perplexed, I questioned whether I had inadvertently set a new alarm, but the title simply read down. Dismissing it as a minor glitch, I deactivated the alarm and returned to rest, hoping for peace. The following night, I was once again roused from my sleep by the relentless wailing of my phone's alarm. This time, it was 3:00 a.m., and the cryptic title was beneath. I knew with chilling certainty that I had not set such an alarm. Suspecting a prank, I pointed fingers at my mischievous brother. The next morning, I implored my father to instruct my brother to cease his relentless tampering with my alarm, for it was interfering with my much-needed sleep on school nights. My brother solemnly swore that he was innocent, and a glimmer of belief flickered within me. Desperation drove me to safeguard my phone. I set a password and documented it on a discreet sticky note hidden behind my bed. I ensured no additional alarms were set, except for the reliable 8:00 a.m. wake-up call. With a heavy heart, I retired for the night. Yet, the torment persisted. In the dead of night, my slumber was again disrupted by the blaring alarm, but it was different this time. The room was cloaked in darkness, and the distorted, Nightmarish screaming from my phone's alarm left me paralyzed with dread. The title now spelled out bed, and the time displayed was a haunting 1:00 a.m. As I lay there, overwhelmed by confusion, a sense of foreboding gripped me. The phone's battery, at a perilous 10%, urged me to reach beneath my bed for the charger. But it was absent, and in that chilling moment, the pieces of the sinister puzzle fell into place. The 4 alarm titles formed a sinister sentence. Down beneath the bed. I attempted to withdraw my arm, but it was too late. A frigid, clammy hand clamped onto my arm with an unrelenting grip. I screamed with all the power in my lungs, my cries piercing the stillness of the night. The sound resonated through the house, alerting my parents in their bedroom. My father burst into the room, wielding a baseball bat, and witnessed the horrifying tableau. I was being drawn closer to the abyss of my bed, while the malevolent intruder lurked underneath. Swiftly, my father reached beneath the bed and incapacitated the assailant with the bat. He promptly summoned the police, revealing the chilling truth. The man concealed beneath my bed was a registered sex offender with a disturbing history, having faced arrest 10 times. He was a deeply troubled individual who gained pleasure from terrorizing his victims. The revelation that he had invaded our sanctuary, lurking beneath my bed for 4 torturous days, sent shudders down our spines. In this nightmarish tale, the human touch came in the form of familial love and protection, ultimately saving the victim from a malevolent fiend. Story 3. Unbelievable incident. The most horrifying experience of my life didn't directly happen to me, but it was deeply unsettling. It involved my friend, whom I'll call Ty. We used to hang out or text each other every day. But there was one day when he didn't respond to any of my messages or calls. I decided to check on him, as his house was just a block away. I went over to his place, knocking and ringing the doorbell, but there was no response, even though his car was parked in the driveway. It felt like he wanted to be left alone, which was unusual. But late that night, something even more disturbing occurred. I received a FaceTime request from an unknown number, and cautiously, I answered it, keeping the camera away from my face. When the screen lit up, I saw Ty. My initial relief was quickly replaced by shock, as I noticed he looked different, more tired and somewhat paranoid. He was in an unfamiliar room. I asked him where he was and why he hadn't been responding. Ty reassured me that he was fine and at home, but the unease in his eyes was unmistakable. I questioned whose phone he was using, and there was a long, uncomfortable pause. He just stared at the camera blankly before admitting he was using his uncle's phone. This was odd, but before I could press further, he suddenly asked me for $10,000, saying he'd pay me back. I couldn't help but laugh, thinking it was a joke, but Ty's expression was deadly serious, filled with concern. I asked him why he needed such a huge sum, and he once again fell into an eerie silence, staring into the camera. Finally, he told me he had to go, and the call abruptly ended. It was one of the strangest and most unsettling experiences of my life. I'd never seen Ty act this way, and something was clearly very wrong. Despite the late hour, I decided to visit his house the following day to talk to him in person. However, when I rang the doorbell repeatedly, there was no response. I eventually gave up, feeling frustrated. If he wanted to act mysteriously, it was his problem. But that night, around the same time as before, I received another FaceTime call from an unknown number. To my shock, it was Ty again, but he looked even worse. His hair was disheveled, a deep cut marred his forehead, and he had dark bags under his eyes. I couldn't comprehend what had happened to him. He refused to explain and continued to demand $10,000, instructing me to send it to a random address. I repeatedly declined, and then, in a shaky, nervous voice, he uttered something that still haunts me to this day. "Come on, don't point a gun at my back." As he said this, there was a slight twitch in his left eye, which I interpreted as a wink. The call ended abruptly, leaving me in a state of shock. By some stroke of luck, I remembered the address he'd mentioned and immediately called the police. They hurried to the location, an old, abandoned house in a desolate part of town miles away from my home. They found Ty in the basement, beaten nearly to death and barely clinging to life. The person responsible for his condition had already fled. Ty didn't like to talk about what happened, but he did share that he was walking home when everything went black, and he woke up in that dark, horrifying basement. The fear and mystery surrounding that night still haunt both of us, as we'll never know the full extent of what transpired.